Heroes of the Bible, Men. Noah trusted God and built an ark, while others mocked him. God kept his promise, and Noah and his family were saved from the flood. Despite facing grief, loss, and suffering, Job refused to blame God for his problems. God eventually spoke to Job, and Job listened. God helped Job rebuild his life and restored all he had lost so that he was better off than ever. Abraham had the faith to believe that God would keep his promise and give him a son, and that his descendants would become a great nation. Joseph was unfairly treated by his brothers and falsely accused by Potiphar's wife. Despite being a slave and then a prisoner, he trusted in the Lord, who rescued him and saw him promoted to be the second most important person in Egypt. Moses trusted God and led the Hebrew slaves out of Egypt to the promised land. Joshua trusted in God to keep his promises and battled to claim the promised land. Gideon learned to trust God even when he was outnumbered. With God's help, he defeated the Midianite invaders. Shamgar trusted God, and even though he only had a wooden ox-goad stick, defeated the heavily armed enemies who attacked him. Samson was a man who had great strength, but was morally weak. When captured by the Philistines, he trusted God to give him one last chance to show his strength and brought down a pagan temple. Naaman was a Syrian army commander who had leprosy. When he obeyed God's instructions to dip 7 times in the river Jordan, he was healed. Jonah disobediently ran away and refused to do what God wanted. But when he repented and obeyed God, he was rescued from the sea and did what God had asked. Elijah trusted that God would send fire on his sacrifice, but not the sacrifice of the prophets of Baal. He even covered his sacrifice with water, so that when God sent fire to consume the offering, the people watching were left in no doubt about God's power. Nathan the prophet was brave enough to go and tell wicked King Ahab that God was going to send judgment on him. Jeremiah told people what God had said, even though they refused to listen and then mistreated him. His enemies put him in a muddy well and left him to die, but God rescued him. When Daniel was ordered to stop praying to God, he refused and was put in a den of lions. God sent an angel to close the lions' mouths, and Daniel was rescued. Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego. These 3 Jews refused to bow down to a large idol, even when threatened with being thrown into a furnace. God rescued them from the flames. When there was a plot to kill the Jews in Persia, Mordecai prayed to God and asked his niece, Queen Esther, to help them. God rescued Mordecai from wicked Haman, who wanted to kill him, and rescued the Jews also. Peter learned from his many mistakes and began to trust God more and more. He became the leader of the church in Jerusalem. Paul spent a lot of time in prison and faced a lot of opposition when he became a Christian. He used these times well, and his faith grew stronger and stronger. John was a close friend of Jesus, who wrote the Gospel of John. God revealed things that will happen in the future to John, and he wrote these down in the book of Revelation.